It's kind of wild how much we use AI now, right?
Yeah.
Like, it's everywhere. But what if we can make it even smarter, not just doing stuff, but actually, like, reasoning things out?
Yeah, that's the big question, isn't it?
And that's where this whole ReAct prompting thing comes in, right?
It
From what
does.
I've read, it's like trying to get AI to think step by step
Yeah, sort of like guiding it like we think.
instead of just throwing a ton of data at it and hoping for the
Right?
best.
Exactly. Traditional AI, it can sometimes, make things up, or the information it has could be out of date. React's trying to solve those problems.
I see. So it's like adding a layer of critical thinking on top of the AI's existing knowledge, which I guess makes sense. If you were prepping for, say, a meeting about using AI, knowing about ReAct could be pretty important.
Oh, definitely. But to really get React, it helps to understand prompt engineering in general.
Okay, so back up a sec. Prompt engineering. What's that in a nutshell?
So it's basically how we give instructions to the AI. You could think of it like instead of just giving someone a bunch of ingredients, you give them a recipe.
Ah, okay, that makes sense. So ReAct takes that idea and like supercharges it.
Exactly. It adds this whole structure of reasoning, action, and observation.
Okay, so break that down for me. Reasoning, I guess that's pretty straightforward. Like the AI have to think about the problem, right?
Right, but it's not just like thinking silently. It actually has to explain its reasoning like out loud in the system.
Whoa. So it's almost like the AI is talking itself through the problem.
Pretty much. And that helps it stay on track, and course correct if it runs into a problem.
That's super interesting. So then what about action? Does that mean the AI starts doing things in the real world?
Not literally, no. In this case, action means it's using tools to find information. So like it might search the web or use a database, even a calculator, all inside the AI system.
Wait, so an AI searching the web in real time, that's kind of like investigative journalism, like digging for clues and connecting the dots. That could be huge for research.
Absolutely. The source actually had a good example with this thing called Hotspot QA. So imagine you ask it, how many rooms are in the hotel where Cirque du Soleil's show Mystere is performed? Hotspot QA is about finding a specific fact inside a bunch of text.
Okay, so the AI has to figure out which hotel it is, then figure out how many rooms it has. Got it.
Exactly. And with ReAct, it might start by searching for Cirque du Soleil Mystere to find the hotel. If that doesn't work, it tries again, maybe with Mystere, Cirque du Soleil, instead. Eventually, it figures out the shows at Treasure Island Hotel and Casino. Then it searches for info on that hotel to get the number of rooms.
Wow, it's really methodical, like a detective or something.
Right. And then that leads to the third part, observation. So after it takes an action, the AI looks at the results. Did it find the info it needed? If not, maybe it needs to change its thinking or try something different.
So it's like constantly learning and adapting. Okay, so I get the basics now, but why should our listeners be excited about ReAct? What makes it so groundbreaking?
That's the key question, right? And here's where things get interesting. The source talks about several key benefits. First, way better decision-making. Since the AI is thinking things through carefully, it's less likely to screw up, make costly mistakes.
Right, fewer errors, more reliable outcomes. Makes sense.
Plus, the AI can access up-to-date info, so decisions are more accurate and more relevant. No more relying on old data.
So it's constantly evolving, staying up to date. But I'm guessing there are downsides too, right?
Yeah.
Nothing's perfect. What are the limitations?
Of course. No tech is perfect, yeah. One thing is the computational load. ReAct can be pretty demanding on the system, so it might be slower than other methods.
So trade-off between power and speed. Our listeners would have to think about that, how speed matters for their use case.
Definitely. Also, ReAct is still pretty new. Not all AI systems can use it yet. And it's important to remember it's not like magic plug and play. You need to design the prompts carefully and adjust them to get the best results.
Like any powerful tool, you got to know how to use it right. Gotcha.
Exactly. Now, you might be thinking, how does this compare to other prompting methods out there? There's chain of thought prompting. It's kind of similar to ReAct, encouraging step-by-step thinking, but it leans heavily on the AI's own knowledge, which can lead to those hallucinations we talked about earlier.
So more prone to making things up.
Yeah, exactly. Then there's self-ask prompting. It's where the AI breaks a hard question into smaller ones. Great for problem solving, but ReAct is better when you need up-to-the-minute info.
So ReAct is more dynamic, adapts to the situation.
You could say that. It's more complex, sure, but the potential for real-world use is huge.
Okay, I'm getting it. Now, you mentioned chatbots earlier. How could ReAct change how we use them?
Oh, that's a great question, and one that's got everyone in AI pretty excited. Imagine a chatbot that not only gets your questions, but can actually reason through them and then take action to get you the info you need.
So instead of those annoying loops where it's like, sorry, I didn't get that, you'd actually have a back and forth, like a real conversation.
Precisely. It could search the web, access your data securely, even book appointments for you, all while sounding human.
Okay, that's impressive. But how realistic is that? Are we talking years, decades away?
Tough to say for sure, AI moves so fast. But the progress with ReAct is really promising. Think about it. A few years ago, an AI searching the web in real time sounded crazy. Now it's happening. So who knows what the next 5 years will bring?
That's true. It's all changing so quickly. So maybe these React chatbots will be normal sooner than we think.
It's definitely possible. And it's not just chatbots. Think about virtual assistants that know what you need before you ask, or educational tools that are personalized based on how you learn best. It's a whole new way of using AI.
Wow. Okay, mind blown. But let's back up a bit. The source mentioned this example about putting a pepper shaker away. Doesn't sound very high-tech.
But this is where ReAct gets really interesting. It's not just about reacting, it's about planning ahead, which is huge for robotics and automation.
Okay, I'm intrigued now. Pepper shaker. Planning. Go on.
So picture this. An AI, like a robot, has to put a pepper shaker in a drawer.
All right, got it. Robot in the kitchen, pepper shaker.
Now, an old school AI might just grab it and try to shove it in, no real thought, probably making a mess.
Yeah, I could see that. Not very elegant.
But with ReAct, it's different. The AI thinks about where pepper shakers are usually kept. Like, okay, cabinets, drawers, countertops. It's considering the options just like a human.
Like it's building a map of the kitchen in its mind.
Right. So then it checks those places to find the pepper shaker. Let's say it's on the counter.
Using its observations to guide its actions.
And now here's the cool part. Instead of just grabbing it, the ReAct AI plans ahead.
Wait, planning ahead? What does that even mean for a robot?
It might think, if I just put this in the drawer now, it could spill. I need to open the drawer first.
No way. That's amazing. It's like anticipating problems and solving them before they happen.
Exactly. That's the power of ReAct. It's not just reacting, it's reasoning, planning, acting with a goal in mind.
This is making me think about, like, robots in factories or self-driving cars.
Yeah,
If they could do this kind of planning, that would be huge.
absolutely. It's a total game changer. And this is still early days. As researchers keep working on it, we're going to see even more amazing applications.
Okay, I'm officially on board with this whole React thing. But before we go too far into the future, let's talk about how to actually use it. I know the source we've been looking at has a technical guide, which we'll link in the show notes.
Yeah, that's a great resource if you want to dive deep.
But for our listeners who are just getting started, what's the high-level view? How do you implement React?
Sure. So first, you figure out what you want the AI to do. Could be answering a question or a bunch of actions.
So define the goal.
Exactly. Then you got to pick the right tool for the AI to use. Depends on the task. If it's searching the web, you give it a search tool. If it's working with data, you give it a database tool.
Like giving it a toolbox and letting it choose the right one.
That's a good way to put it. Then, once you've got the task and the tool, you got to design the prompt itself. That's where you give the AI instructions, what reasoning steps to take, actions it can do, how to look at the results.
That sounds tricky.
It can be, yeah. And remember, it's not just setting it and forgetting it. You got to experiment, try different prompts, adjust based on how the AI is performing.
Constantly tweaking and improving, huh?
That's the name of the game. But the results can be incredible.
I could definitely see that. This whole React thing is really powerful. I'm excited to see where it goes in the next few years.
Me too. It's a fascinating field with so much potential. It really does. And speaking of potential, the source we're looking at, it hints at something pretty exciting. ReAct could totally change conversational AI, like chatbots specifically.
Oh yeah, that's an area that needs some serious help, I think. So many chatbots are just clunky.
I hear you. But imagine like a chatbot that's actually powered by ReAct. Instead of just looking at keywords, it would get the meaning of your question, reason it out, and then actually do something to find you an answer.
So instead of that, I didn't understand loop. It's like an actual conversation.
That's the idea. And think what it could do. Search the web, get info from your accounts securely, of course, even book appointments for you, all while talking like a normal person.
Okay, that's a future I can get behind. But how far off is that, realistically? Years, decades?
Hard to say for sure. AI moves so fast, right?
Right.
But the progress we're seeing with ReAct, it's encouraging. I mean, a few years back, the idea of an AI searching the web in real time, that was sci-fi. Now it's happening. So in 5 years, who knows?
You've got a point there. If we've come this far this fast, maybe those ReAct chatbots will be the norm sooner than we think.
Could be. And it's not just chatbots either. Think about virtual assistants that anticipate what you need before you even say it. Or like education tools that are personalized based on your learning style.
It's a whole different way of interacting with tech.
Exactly. It's a paradigm shift. That's what it is. We're not just giving AI more data. We're teaching it to think more like us.
Mind-blowing stuff. But with all this excitement about the future, we got to be real too, right? ReAct isn't perfect. We talked about its limitations, but there's the ethical side of things too.
Right. You're absolutely right. As AI gets smarter, we have to talk honestly about the risks and the benefits, make sure it's used responsibly, ethically, so it helps everyone.
That's a conversation that needs to happen now, I think, alongside the tech itself.
Huh.
Can't just get carried away with what's possible without thinking about the consequences.
Exactly. And, the source we're looking at, it does a good job of showing both sides, the opportunities and the challenges. It's a complex issue for sure.
Yeah, well said. Now, I want to get back to the source material for a sec. It mentioned that ReAct could be useful for way more than just what we've talked about, like robotics and even self-driving cars. Can you unpack that a bit?
Sure. So think about it. If ReAct can handle something as basic as putting a pepper shaker away and doing it well, imagine what it could do for robots in really complex situations like a factory or a construction site.
Yeah, robots that can not only do their jobs, but also adapt if something unexpected happens. That's next level stuff.
It is. ReAct could help robots go from just automated machines to actual collaborators, understanding human needs, working in environments that are constantly changing.
And self-driving cars. How does ReAct fit into that?
Well, self-driving cars, they rely on AI to navigate, make decisions in real time. But we've seen even the best AI can make mistakes, and with cars, those mistakes can be dangerous. ReAct could help by letting the car think through different scenarios, anticipate problems, make safer choices.
So it's not just reacting to what's happening right now, it's trying to prevent accidents from happening in the first place.
That's the goal. Make self-driving cars more reliable so more people will use them. That could change how we get around completely.
This is amazing stuff. It's clear that ReAct has potential in so many different fields.
It really does. But as exciting as this is, it's important to remember ReAct is still new. There are challenges, limitations, and those ethical questions we talked about, they need to be addressed.
Good point. It's easy to get carried away, right?
Yeah.
But we need to stay grounded. Remember that tech is a tool. And like any tool, it can be used in different ways.
Exactly. And the source we've been looking at, it's a good overview, but it's just one perspective. AI research is exploding right now. There's new stuff coming out all the time.
So our listeners should see this as a starting point, not the end of the story.
Definitely. And anyone who wants to dig deeper, check out that technical guide we mentioned. It's in the show notes.
Awesome. And, maybe one of our listeners will get inspired and end up contributing to this whole field. Who knows?
Wouldn't that be cool? The future of AI, it's being shaped by people like them. So keep exploring, keep asking questions, push the boundaries. That's what it's all about.
Now that's inspiring. Okay, so I think that wraps up this part of our ReAct deep dives. But before we go, I want to leave everyone with something to think about. We've talked about how ReAct could change things, chatbots, robots, all that. But what about us? How will it affect people, not just as, users of tech, but as a society?
Yeah, that's a huge question. And honestly, it's one that people don't always think about enough. We get excited about the new tech, but the impact on society, that's complex. ReAct could be amazing for things like healthcare, education, the environment. It could make our lives better.
I can see that. Like AI that can actually reason, plan, that could lead to better medical treatments, more engaging education, solutions for climate change even.
Exactly. But there's the other side too. What about jobs? As AI gets smarter, will it replace human workers? And what about bias? AI systems, they're trained on data, and that data can reflect the biases we already have in society.
So it's not as simple as saying new tech, therefore progress. We got to be aware of the potential downsides too.
Right. We need to have these conversations now. While this tech is still being developed, what values do we want AI to have? How do we make sure it's used fairly for everyone's benefit?
It's a balancing act, isn't it? Using AI for good, but also being careful about the risks.
It is, and it's not something that tech people can figure out on their own. It needs everyone. Policymakers, ethicists, the public, we all have a role to play.
That's a good point. I'm glad we're talking about this. It's easy to get caught up in the excitement, but we got to keep the big picture in mind. How will this affect society as a whole?
Definitely. And I think the source material does a pretty good job of showing both sides, the potential and the concerns. It's not trying to give easy answers, which is important.
Yeah, it's nuanced, like you said. So for our listeners who are like, okay, I'm interested, where do I go from here? What would you recommend?
Well, there's tons of info online in libraries. I'd say start with some of the research papers on ReAct, see what the experts are saying. And there are online communities, too, where developers and researchers are sharing their work.
And we'll link to some of those in the show notes, of course.
Perfect. And for those who want to get really hands-on, there's open source stuff out there, libraries, frameworks. You can actually play around with ReAct, see how it works.
That's awesome. Maybe one of our listeners will make the next big discovery.
I wouldn't be surprised. The future of AI, it's being shaped right now.
Now that is an inspiring thought. So to everyone listening, if you're curious about ReAct, don't stop here. Keep learning, keep asking questions, and don't be afraid to push the boundaries.
Couldn't have said it better myself. The future of AI needs people like you.
And on that note, I think we've reached the end of our ReAct deep dive. It's been quite a journey, hasn't it? Learning how it works, the potential it has, the ethical stuff, a lot to think about.
It has. Really fascinating conversation.
I've enjoyed it too. And to everyone listening, thank you for joining us. We hope you learned something new and that you're as excited about the future of AI as we are.
Stay curious, stay informed, and keep those questions coming. That's what matters.
Perfectly said. We'll catch you next time for another deep dive into the world of knowledge and ideas. Until then, take care.